believe that's Clay Della Cava, if I remember correctly.
Yes, yeah.
And one of the Pro Formula Mazdas. That's a little bit later Pro Formula Mazda. The 2004 Mazda is what one of the Johnstons is driving. I believe it's Brett Johnston. As we come to the green, Jonathan, take it away.
Here we go then. Our Group 9, Feature Race 2. Away they go. Good clean start. Everybody's away well, but it is the number 3 of Stuart Crow, the man we were talking about earlier, going into the Optima Batteries turn 2. Nicely done. Good line through there. Nice and clean. And the rest of the pack chasing him through. Good clean start by everybody, but it's Crow who leads. Here in second place is the 73, getting a good start, James Johnston, in that swift 014 Atlantic, the red and white car that you see. And trailing through turn 4 and up start, climbing from 5 through here.
Look, already you can see Crow starting to pull away.
Yeah, nice start by Crow. Beautiful sand too as they come up the hill and into that left-hander. And just behind the 54 of Jim Marley in another Swift 014. Up the Rahal straight for the first time then.
The Swift 014, they used a lot in club racing, as well as the World Atlantic Series. Lewis Cooper III won one of his championships in that Swift 014A.
Like I said, they literally drop off the edge, don't they, at the corkscrew.
And it's probably more pronounced in a formula car than it is even in a production car.
I think so, especially with the stiff chassis and the way the suspension is. You literally, you bang down, you literally, your heart goes in your mouth or in your stomach. So a good battle for second and third here as the leader starts to pull away. Crow in ascendance.
And much like with the Trans Am cars, this is a beautiful sound going by here with all these formula cars, open wheel engines coming by. Yesterday, we at one point, I believe it was about the second or third lap, we had all 3 Johnstons, one lined up right behind the other for second, third, and fourth. Clay Della Cava in that Mazda, Pro Formula Mazda, that was a brand new design for 2004 for the Pro Formula Mazda series. Has the engine, and it's 250 horsepower sealed engine that came out of the Mazda RX-8, the Genesis RX-8 engine.
Good little battle here, the 72, James Johnston Jr. and the Mazda Pro Formula himself. There he is. Going wheel to wheel. Much wider wheel brace on the one on the left-hand side. You really see it illustrated as they go up the hill. And just waiting to pop out on the drone, up the Rahal straight. And a good 3-way battle at the front. Crow, Marley, Johnston, Della Cava. And then in 5th place, it's the 72 of James Johnston Jr. Or Junior, as we just put him on the graphic. Why not?
Sounds good.
JR.
Stuart Crow is not pulling out as big a lead as he had yesterday, at least in the early stages of this race, Jonathan. The Johnston Jr. and Clay Della Cava is trying to stay with him. Had about 10 or 11 second lead yesterday, but he definitely does not have that today. Well, a little bit different line through turn 11.
Well, he got his move made on the inside, which is hard to do, but he made it stick, and he's got ahead of the Masters. And that's 19 of Graham Ranking in the Swift. Set a time of 1:28.6 in his qualifying, or in the feature race yesterday.
Yeah, he had a fast lap early in the race, but had a disappointing race. He finished, I believe it was in about 14th or 15th overall, but right up there at the sharp end of the grid, as you would call it, Jonathan.
Yep. Well, it's known as Laguna Seca, which means dry lake, but they filled it out for now. That's also Ducati Island during the motorcycle races.
You can see Crow, he should be very familiar with this car. He helped develop it. But he just loves the race here on the West Coast. He's slated to be up at Sonoma next weekend as well. So Formula Atlantics that are chasing him and the Pro Formula Mazda's chasing him, they're going to have to see that car again next weekend.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of familiar sights next weekend that we've seen here this weekend. Down the hill comes Rankin. And that was the pass. Rankin made a really good pass on the 2 Masters in the previous lap. And now look at the gap he's pulled away as they come through 10 as he chases down the man in front of him. That's Della Cava in 4th position.
Well, that Swift Formula Atlantic should be a lot stronger than those 2 Formula Mazdas, but again, Jonathan, as you know, The last race that we were at was at Road Atlanta, and depending on where you get in traffic, you can be held up a lot, or you can really make up a lot of ground.
Yeah, I think that's the more you learn about this sort of racing, the more you realize where you are on the track can make a huge difference as to how you get through the traffic, etc. You just don't want to get clogged up on the infield section when you can't make an overtake necessarily, or perhaps at the top of the corkscrew. And here's our leader, putting down some very impressive laps so far, Stuart Crow. Not holding back. 7 seconds and increasing.
I know Terry Earwood, who's the Skip Barber Racing School driving instructor, would always say in one of his speeches that sometimes you actually need to slow down to go faster, which doesn't make a lot of sense until you get out into the races, and sometimes it's best just to follow somebody through. You know you're faster than them, but if you force the issue, you not only slow yourself down, you slow them down, and you bring cars back that were behind you by a lot right into play. So slow down a little bit, follow that car, then pick a good spot where you know you're strong at and make that clean pass.
Yeah, it's always the same. Smooth is fast.
And you can see Crow, a couple of tenths here, a couple of tenths there, and over the course of a timed race or a lap race, whichever, that all of a sudden balloons into an 8-10 second lead. But it's just that smoothness, just that consistency, which Crow obviously has. Usually factory drivers are very smooth and very consistent. I know when I was growing up, I was able to watch the great Peter Gregg, and he never looked fast on the track, but you look at the sheets and he was always at the top. It was because he was so smooth and so consistent, never a wheel wrong, that the car was always going straight. It was never sliding around or scrubbing off speed anywhere on the course.
There's Jamie Schuller in the TUI BH3, and this is a lovely car too, the Rolt. We've got 2 Rolts out there, an RT4 and an RT5 from 82.
Yeah, the TUI is made famous by Bertil Roos. He was in the Formula Super V racing, and this was the chassis that he chose and did very well in it. It was one of the very few TUI chassis that had a lot of success in those years. Good close nose to tail racing there as they disappeared from that shot.
Yeah, really good. Well, that's one thing we've been really pleased today with, is how close the racing is here in SVRA, and the no holding back. You get a circuit like Laguna, a beautiful day like this, and you just want to go racing. So we go back with the 72. James Johnson Jr. He's on his own now, so he can dial it in. But a good little battle starting to emerge here. This one for the podium. Jim Marley under pressure now on the inside.
He's kind of hunting around trying to find a room to get inside.
He can't quite do it in time.
Boy, you saw him hunting around.
He was thinking about it.
Said, should I, shouldn't I? No, I really shouldn't.
These 2 cars should be pretty evenly matched. They're both 014 Swifts. So as we go back to the 59 of Tyler Butterfield in that Royale. What do you know about a Royale?
Royale RP16, they're more well known for their Formula Fords, but they also went into the Formula Super V and Formula Atlantics, as many of the manufacturers did. Not quite as successful in this particular type of racing, but were very successful in Formula Ford.
That looks like a very tiny fit. 26. Scott Trevi in the Lola. Not too many Lolas out there today, but there is one.
Yeah, I believe that is a T328, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it is.
Running in the Formula Continental class, Continental and SCCA class, and the Lola had a lot of success there. Had a lot of success in the Formula Super V ranks as well.
Back with our leader then, who's increasing that lead. Going through the gearbox and past our commentary position. It sounds absolutely magnificent. If you're not here at Laguna, I hope you can hear how beautiful that sounds.
But it's that battle for second that really is, third is really going down for the last step of the podium there between those 2 Swift Formula Atlantics.
It's interesting, those cars from the early 80s, you can see, I'm not sure how tall Remleth is, but he sits very high up in that seat.
And you would think, their earlier production car models had people that were sitting high up in the seat, and they finally figured out, the designers did anyway, that, if you kind of leaned the position back just a little bit, and this was more prevalent in the Formula Junior cars, which was first in the open wheel, is you lean the driver back a little bit, that you could actually increase aerodynamics and still have a good vision and good range of vision for the race.
Yep. And in fact, they seem to lower them and lower them as the years went by. Who needs mirrors?
Good racing. Again, Stuart Crow, he's just, for some reason, again, he races on these tracks a lot, but he just has these tracks dialed in. I think you'll see it next weekend at Sonoma as well. Any track up and down the West Coast, he has been very good at.
Down into the rainy curve one more time, and looking high above it. I'm loving this new era of drones to see the tracks so much more differently. You really do see the strategy more so than you would on an onboard, to be honest, because you get to see the curvature with the driver himself, and you can see what he's trying to do as he executes a pass or goes for a little bit of time here. And you'll see it in this particular instance, just jinking out here as it rises over this crest here. You're side by side, and then it drops right down into the Optima Batteries curve. And that's a lot further than it looks actually when you're at this level. It's quite an undulation here.
I like the aerial shots too, because sometimes the strategy of drivers, because you'll see when on a head-on shot you can usually see like one or two cars. The aerial shots, you can see the cars coming up behind them, and see how if it's a pack or one or two, and you can see traffic up ahead. And you say, oh well, the leaders are getting ready to come into that traffic. It's going to be a little bit dicey there.
Yeah, no question. Tyler Butterfield was the man we were just watching again in that Royale. Here he is. And that's actually coming into that last corner now.
And you'll notice, Jonathan, most of the races we've been watching, that those cars will drift all the way out, at least have one or two wheels, if not all four, over those rumble strips. Not so with these. I don't think they could even clear those with the distance between.
You'd really get to. I mean, you're so low to the ground that it's too much of a risk to start bouncing over the curbs.
And even adding that extra pavement up there at the corkscrew, where you can kind of straighten that out now, but you have to go over some rumble strips there. In these cars, you do whatsoever. That steering wheel is so tight and such a limited motion that turns those wheels. These cars are very fast, and unfortunately, they can get away from you very fast.
Back with the number 9 of Geir Ramlet in that Rolt, putting on a good show.
And this is
currently in 8th position.
This is the same Geir Ramlet that won at the Lotus 23B class that we had in the Group 1, 3, 4, and 5B earlier in the day.
Yeah, so he's had a busy day, but that was, like you say, right at the beginning of the day, wasn't it? So
yes.
He's had some time off.
Not unlike Travis Engen, who we actually witnessed actually going from one class of car where he just finished and jumping right into another completely different type of car.
Oh, unbelievable! Didn't he go from like the Audi to he went some single seater that was?
He went from a Chevron. Went from a Chevron to an Audi.
That's it. Great stuff. But that's the epitome of historic racing. Now you see that drop off. Lake doing a great example of what he's looking at from where his position. That's our cameraman.
And again, those pictures, even that great shot there, really doesn't do it justice. You actually have to be in a car going down there to actually know what type of elevation change it. You can even feel it on the access road as you're going down there trying to get up to or come down to it. It's even that about 5 or 10 times that.
And it doesn't matter who you are. When you're going downhill that steeply, there's always that sense that of the car running away from you, and that you may not be able to turn in, or you're going faster than you actually think you're going. And these guys don't think that, but I know that us mere mortals might.
Yes.
So this is a good little battle between these two. They've been side by side and wheel to wheel for the last few laps in the Masters. Here we are.
Yeah, Clay Della Cava, an experienced driver, as is James Johnston Jr. Both of those are good drivers. Johnston Jr. And his family out of Colorado, they came east, started racing in SCCA club racing about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it was always the dad that was winning. But as the years have gone on, James Johnston and Jr. Both kind of caught up to Dad. Dad usually runs the Swift Formula Atlantic. He says if I can't beat him in the same class, I'll at least outrun him in a faster car.
There you go. Dad's always the wily old fox.
That's right.
And remember, he'll remind him who paid the bills when they started. Stuart Crow still way out in front and having a great time in his Rolt RT40. But like I said, we've got a cross-section of cars that goes all the way back to 1972 and all the way up to 2006 with that Master Pro Formula.
They usually have a lot of the Indy Lights cars here at the SVRA, the Lola T9720s. That's usually the car of choice. They're usually out front. So I'm sure that Crow is loving this. He has clear vision out front, nobody to play with, but he's actually out there having fun.
Yeah, and a lot of the times, you know, talking to these guys, sure, they want to be competitive, but a lot of the time they're racing themselves. They've probably been to this track a few times. They know their data, they know their track time, and they just want to improve on it. They just want to get better. And if you talk to an expert or an instructor here at Laguna, someone like Thomas Merrill, they'll tell you that there are places here that no one knows about in terms of where to be exactly on the track to just get that extra little tenth here or there.
And I think that comes up more so even in traffic than it does actually out on a clean lap, because in traffic, okay, if I'm a little bit slower here, I know that there's a passing zone coming up, or I know I can get on the inside of them because the track does this or that, and you only learn that by seat time.
Yeah, no question.
And that's very prevalent at my home track, Road Atlanta. It's a very fast track, and it looks rather easy, but it has all those subtle nuances that only a driver that has been there many, many times. And again, you see that not only in the lap times, but as the traffic does, you'll see some of the drivers kind of holding back because they know that that's not the place to pass. I can get it done a lot easier and a lot safer coming up the next corner. And the placement on the track also, again, all that comes just with lap after lap, going around the track. Well, we can have more of a bigger transition, Jonathan, between this and the next group coming up. Open wheel Formula cars, purpose-built Formula single-seaters, and going up to the Trans Am 2 production-based cars with a huge 515 horsepower in it.
Yep, absolutely. That's the big boys coming up, and our showcase event, if you will, for Trans Am. Looking forward to that 75-minute, 100-mile race. And another overtake for position here. Nicely done.
Yeah, he set that up well coming out of turn 11. Had a good run out of there, good drive, and just did a very clean, basic drafting pass coming down the front. That's the way that you pass. You don't try to force it. You know that you got a better drive out of there. You can get him on the straightaway. Just drove up right behind him and then right by him.
Brett Johnston at the wheel. And we haven't seen much of Stuart Crow because he's kind of gone.
Yeah, that's what he did yesterday. He started out, everybody saw him, and then he just edged away, putting those tenths of a seconds here and there, and all of a sudden, he was long gone. 10, 15 seconds ahead.
So we're expecting the white flag next time by, but I don't think it's going to make any difference to the overall result here at the WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Here in the bright sunshine, we've had a great weekend so far, and this, remember, is a doubleheader for the Speed Tour. We're heading next to Sonoma in just a matter of days. And so everybody wanting to make sure that their car's in good fettle, and if it isn't, they've got time at least to do something with it. And this is a very hotbed for motor racing, especially historics. So there's plenty of parts around and plenty of chances to get sorted. Our first look at James Schuller for a couple of minutes there in the TUI. Mentioned him earlier as we concentrate once again on the 3B.
It's great to have beautiful weather here, but it's great to have the fans back too.
Yeah, no kidding.
We missed y'all.
Yeah, no kidding. It was a tough couple of years, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Hopefully those are way behind us now, and we have nothing but smooth sailing coming up.
Final lap then here in our Group 9 final race. The feature race 2 for them, and it is Crow by some 17 seconds. You were saying he had a big margin. Was it this big yesterday?
I think it was along the lines. I want to say 15 yesterday, but
wow.
If it was, as you say, you're racing yourself, well, I got a bigger lead today.
Well, we're watching Johnston in 5th place at the moment in clean air. Just racing away. Puff of fire coming out the exhaust there. And here's your leader.
So even when he's going through traffic, he's just so smooth going through there.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you've ever been in a single-seater, especially a fast one, it looks smooth, but the one thing I can tell you it isn't. There's no suspension. They're pushed onto the ground. They're made to literally graze the surface of the track almost, and so there's nothing comfortable about it.
I went to driver's school in a Formula Ford, and
Yeah.
they didn't tell me about the air that would rush up under the helmet, try to lift it off your head.
That's the worst thing.
And my eyeballs were bouncing because the pavement that looked smooth wasn't. Yeah, it's not easy, folks.
And then you brake, and then the whole body, including your neck, goes forward. Oh yeah, it's quite. I described it as violent. I got lucky enough to go in a 2-seater Minardi Formula One car with Damon Hill around Donington, and that's all. I actually cut my tongue because I was just, I was being rattled around in this violent machine. But, when you watch it on television, that really doesn't come across.
Yeah, it looks so smooth and so easy, but it's not.
So Crow takes it by a country mile, and as the crow flies, so to speak, he's done it again. Johnson second place, and Malley in third place. De Calva in fourth, and Johnson fifth. That's the other Johnson in the 3B, and that is a good run by him. Brett Johnson, that is. 73. James Johnson is the one that was on the podium. But there's your winner. Well done to Stuart Crow and the roll. RT40 taking victory here in our feature race 2 for Group 9. Good looking car too, isn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful, yeah. Do an excellent job of preparing, as do all these competitors. You have not noticed one car that was not immaculately prepared that has been out here, despite whatever year it was, from where it was the late 50s, early 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. All these cars, the crews do a great job, the prep shops do a great job of maintaining these cars, and it's no easy feat. As Ben was talking to Chad Reynolds down on the Beast Sedan and Historic Trans Am grid. These parts are not easy to find, and if you do find them, you still sometimes have to do a little work to get them to fit into your particular car.
Yeah, they might sell you them. You got to put them on the car, though.
Right.
You don't get a mechanic that goes with it from the 70s, do you?
No, it's not like buying a Porsche and the engineer comes with it. You have to actually do the work. And again, these drivers and crews, they do it for the love of it. Great to see them out here.
So in terms of activities here at Laguna Seca, there is an official lunch break now. We like to do it cordially here. I mean, there's no point in rushing anything. It's historics, after all. But once again, my thanks to Scott Conway for taking us and guiding us through with amazing knowledge. Photographic memory, I may add.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate being a part of Ben Sissel, Jonathan Green coverage here and the Greenlight TV. Are not looking at speedtour.tv/YouTube, you're missing an amazing coverage. Again, onboard cameras for Trans Am and Trans Am 2. Trans Am 2 coming up a little bit later at 2 o'clock. But the aerial footage, the cameramen that are out there on the corners and camerawomen out there on the corners do an amazing job. And you really need to look into this. Again, if you can't join us next weekend at Sonoma, again, tune into speedtour.tv/YouTube. Jonathan Green, Ben Sissel, and maybe myself will be along for the ride here, and again, a great job. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. And don't forget, we will be taking our lunch break as well, but the TA2, round 4 of the TA2 Championship as part of the Speed Fest and the Speed Tour here at Laguna Seca. We'll take a short break. We'll be back later on.